If you're looking something to mix up your lyric writing process, then you can check out word ladders. In Jeff Tweedy's book, How to Write One Song, he details this process as follows. You're going to get a list of 10 nouns and 10 verbs. You got to make sure that they're from different sources. So for example, he used 10 nouns that were things that were in his surroundings, and then 10 verbs that described the physician. I also used 10 nouns from my surroundings, and verbs I got by looking up a random word generator to generate a word, and then plug that into a related word generator to find those 10 verbs. The key thing here is that you have your nouns and your verbs about different subjects. That way you can evoke unusual imagery, and that's the whole point of this, is to get you outside your comfort zone with what you usually write or different lyric writing stereotypes. I'll include in the description some links for all the resources that I mentioned in this video. Once you've got your 10 nouns and 10 verbs, this is where you're going to want to start getting creative. So you're going to want to pair a noun with a verb, but you want to make sure that it's something that's unusual. As you can see here, I've got my column with nouns, then my column with my verbs here, and I'm just drawing lines in between to connect the ones that I want to pair up. This is also where the latter part of word ladder comes up, because it's like these word columns are the sides of the ladder, and then the lines that you draw across are the rungs. For example, in the one that I did, my noun was darkness, and my verb was file. That just had this interesting imagery to me, like it was personifying the darkness. You can see that in this example, I'm playing with multiple meanings for words. So for example, the word file, in this case, it's file as it relates to a directory, but I used it as file as like filing in, like organized movement of something. It's ultimately up to you how you want to interpret the words and play with this exercise. Once you've got your nouns and your verbs paired up, again, not all of them are going to be interesting necessarily. You're going to have a few left over that you're like, this doesn't quite work, but I'll just roll with it. But once you've got your nouns and your verbs selected, you're going to want to go ahead and write them as a sentence. So like the noun is doing the verb. So for example, I have the light mails, the window directs, the darkness files, and etc. Once you've got that, you want to think of a story for these sentences. It's going to be kind of interesting because you're just getting random nouns and verbs together. You can be as strict or as not strict as you want about this. I chose to just do it in the order that the nouns were. You can choose to mix it up, it's totally up to you. So once I did this, I came up with the following poem, or lyrics, however you want to look at it. The light mailed me today. Directed through the window, darkness files in. Guided to the corners, listed by the outlet. The stand archives these memories, publishing cases I can only access in notebooks. The watch copies my patience, as the fan integrates these sites. Not necessarily the greatest poem, but there are things about it that I like. So for example, I mentioned before the personification of darkness. So what I was thinking with the darkness files in, guided to the corners, I was imagining darkness coming in through the window, and then these shadowy figures going to the corners of the room and just waiting. Kind of like a menacing image. And then also, later on down here, I've got archives these memories I can only access in notebooks. That I thought was interesting just because it sounded antiquated. I haven't heard of things being archived, like physical copies of it, in quite some time. I just thought that was cool. And then I also have the watch copies my patience, because I imagined at the time that I was looking at my watch. Well, I'm not wearing my watch right now, but I was at the time. And I just imagined that I was like looking at the watch and it was staring back at me. And the patience that I felt was reflected in the watch like ticking. What I did from there was I selected the sentences / lines that I liked and made something new with it. So what I had previously became this. Darkness files in, guided to the corners, stalking me from the edge of my perception. These memories archive the notebooks to which only I have access. As I wait for them to strike, the watch ticks, copying my patience. So really, the ideas that I had there kind of changed. So instead of it just being like these shadowy figures, became to me like traumatic memories that were just like stalking me as I read through some old notebooks or of journals. As you can see here, it's something you can do pretty quick. The amount of time that I took doing this was probably like 10 minutes or so just to make something new. Clearly you can come up with some interesting imagery just from doing this for a couple minutes. This was, I forgot to mention earlier, my verbs came from the random word directory. So yeah, that's why my verbs are pretty lame. But hey, it still worked out and I came up with something. If you sign up for my email list down below, I'll send you a free copy of a worksheet with this with some examples, including the example that I presented in this video. Again, this is going to be something that you want to use if you just want to get the ball rolling, or if you've never even written lyrics before, you can just use this to get something started. Give this a shot if you want to try something new. And as always, my name is Greg Angel. I share my experiences with songwriting and self-improvement on this channel, so if either of those topics interest you, consider hitting that subscribe button and liking this video. And thank you for watching.